Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the Swear Word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the Chiliade community, by the Chiliade community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Man, we have an amazing episode here tonight. 2 sauces on deck for Hot or Not. An amazing guest locked and loaded. So episode starts now. What's going on, Swear Nation? So glad to have everyone here, rocking and rolling, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Apple Podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show what it is. Continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads and individuals that just might be curious about the world of hot, because this is where you can find everything to do with the world of hot. So, up tonight, we have 2 sauces on deck. Both of these are from Fxcking Hot Sauces. We're going to be diving into those on Hot or Not. We have David of Beans Hot Sauce here as our guest tonight, so we're going to be learning about everything to do with Beans Hot Sauce. And, we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. And if you would have answered the game any different than David did, let me know down in the comments. Or if you have any, things that you would like to see featured on the show, go ahead and fire those off in the comments as well. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump on over to Hot or Not. Welcome on into Hot or Not. So glad to have everyone here. If this is your first time checking out the podcast or checking out Hot or Not, I do things a little bit different here. I do not do a 1 out of 10 scale. I do a 1 out of 5. That is based off of 5 different categories. Those categories are heat, aroma, flavor, versatility, burn. Yes, I do break down heat and burn as 2 different things. Heat's that max first 30 seconds. Burn is where it sits, how it sits, everything after that 30 seconds. Does it amplify? Does it migrate? That's where the burn gets factored in. And another thing I do not like to do is read the ingredients ahead of time. I like to let my taste buds do that exploration and really figure out what I'm picking up in these products. With that being said, we do have 2 sauces here. These are both from Fxcking Hot Sauces. We have the Mad Cow and the Disclaimer. So we'll be diving into both of these. As you can see here, the newer bottle that has been rolled out is going to be this glass, tall, very familiar bottle to most of us that have, picked up some hot sauces along our journey, as well as the older bottles, which some might still come in that, but most of them have been converted over, to my understanding, to the glass bottle. So no worries there. It's going to end up tasting all the same and all the amazing same experience along the way. But let's do this. We're going to go ahead and grab my spoon. Always have my handy tablespoon. We're going to start out with, let's go with Mad Cow first. So go ahead and grab that one here. Give it a good shake. Now, with this one having the bottle, it has one of these seals that needs to be peeled off the top. So let me pull that off and put that to the side. I'm going to give it a good shake again now that that is off. Get it nice and incorporated. All right, so here we go. Mad Cow. Wow. All right. Right off the bat, very kind of smoky, zesty. With the name Mad Cow, it does kind of bring forward the idea of like a beef brisket, beef smoked kind of like barbecue-esque type of food is immediately pops in my head. And you're definitely picking that up around the aroma. You're getting a nice savory kind of depth to this, a little bit of smoky, a little bit of earthy, but you're definitely picking up that pepper note as well. So let's go ahead and get a good pour here. And because it is a bottle, I can kind of squeeze the sides and get the nice right amount of flow going. Comes out beautifully, nice and smooth. Very clean pour here. Does not look to have much going on texture-wise. You see a little bit of spice going on in this as far as other seasonings, but that is about it. The rest of it is just showing to be a beautiful dark brown red color. Very nice overall color pop to this sauce. Not quite red, not quite brown, but a nice hue of both of them. So cheers. Man. Wow. Absolutely spot on with that one. The name, Mad Cow, the aroma, pairing the flavor to this all. Beautiful, harmonious, immediately salivating like crazy. That is a darn good sauce. Now, the great thing with this one here is you're going to be able to utilize this one, right there with plenty of burgers, sandwiches, barbecue, of course. It does have that nice smoky, savory depth to this. A nice little cut of acidic nature going on in there. Just a kiss of the vinegar going on. So as you're really experiencing this, it is a beautiful marriage of all these great flavors. You have that harmonious, nice pepper coming in on the finish on this. It really sits there, builds up, adds to it. It has a slight sting to it, so maybe that's habanero going on in there, but definitely picking up what tastes like maybe some onion, and really just enjoying the overall flavor of this. My mind is going crazy in different ways that you can utilize this. Being in Texas, and everyone always has deviled eggs, and I always like try to do a little bit different. I can imagine how amazing that would be, just drizzled on top of some deviled eggs, and really awakening it, bringing it to life. Pairing that with a nice chopped pork sandwich on some pizza is going to be phenomenal as well. Really kind of endless on what you could use this for and how you could use this. The great thing here is obviously it's not geared towards desserts, no harm, no foul. So I wouldn't use it there, but just about everywhere else this would go great. In soups, stews, this is going to go phenomenal there. Not quite certain on the idea of a salad. Maybe if you were to do like a something that you're doing like a brisket or pork in a salad, and you're really kind of getting that almost barbecue-esque salad going on there, like a Southwest barbecue style salad. That would actually probably go pretty good, drizzled in there, mixed in with some other things like some olive oil, etc., and really kind of letting that spread and get a nice coating. So definitely another fun way to use that one. Let's talk through the heat. Now, the heat on this one it's definitely noticeable if you're just starting out. This is going to be probably pushing your comfort zone here, but moderation is key. Find out, just use a little bit here, a little bit there. Find out where you're comfortable. Work your way in. If you're constantly working on your own personal best, this is going to be a nice medium sauce for you. Absolutely phenomenal. One that you can lather up, enjoy, and have a great time. I know some of y'all like to use hot sauce with popcorn, and I've recently jumped in on that bandwagon. This is just going to be one that would be absolutely amazing if you're wanting a like barbecue, smoky, savory note to, say, your popcorn for that night, watching some great movies, catching some great podcasts. You'll be able to really incorporate that, get it a nice, shake around the bowl and in there, and you're going to have a great time with this one. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the burn. A burn on this one, it's hitting the back of the throat just a little bit, but you're really getting more of the stinging nature to this, which once again makes me believe that there might be some habanero going on in this as the heat source. All in all, nice, long-lasting burn on this one. Very, while it does taper away a bit, it doesn't completely just sizzle out. It ends up continuing on, and you have that nice residual burn going. So, cheers on that one. But let's do this. Let's read some ingredients here. So, for the Mad Cow from Fxcking Hot Sauces, we have smoked habaneros, serranos, dried hatch chilies, chipotle and adobo, water, balsamic vinegar. We have white vinegar, molasses, tamarind extract, soy sauce, lime juice, lemon juice, orange juice, raisins, tomato paste, prepared mustard, natural mesquite smoke. Definitely liking that. It definitely didn't have any kind of a synthetic smoke taste. So loving the way that was balanced out. Next ingredient is garlic, onion, orange, and then it says salt, pepper, and spices. So beautiful sauce, very well balanced too with the different type of heat sources going on here. So you have habaneros, serranos, hatch chilies, chipotle chilies, and yeah, I mean, beautifully done. The main thing that was kind of a shocking thing to read on here was really the raisin and the tamarind extract. Now the raisin, I normally feel like I'm able to pretty well pick that up, but on this one, it is so so playing so well with everything else that's going on in here. And there's different types of pepper profiles that are going on in there, that it kind of gives it a well-rounded nature in that, and it's a very smoky, savory depth that the raisin almost is one of those that if it was removed, guarantee this sauce would not be the same. So definitely a crucial ingredient, and one that is allowing all of these to work together and play well together. So, all right, here we go. Scores coming in for Mad Cow from Fxcking Hot Sauces. Heat coming in at 3.45, aroma of a 4, flavor of a 4.2, versatility of a 4, burn of a 3.55 for a total swear word rating of 3.84. There we go. Amazing hot sauce. This one here is Mad Cow from Fxcking Hot Sauces. And man, oh man, if you're looking for a nice, spicy, barbecue-esque, smoky hot sauce, this is going to be one for you. You're going to be able to really enjoy. You're still going to be able to incorporate into your food if you're just starting out. Obviously, key here is using in moderation. Find out where you're comfortable. If you need to add more, add more. Always remember, you can never take away what is already out there. So let's do this. Let's jump on into the disclaimer. So give this one a good shake. And we will go ahead and pop the seal on this one, double checking to see. All right, no harm, no foul. Do not see any kind of perforation here. So I will go ahead and use my knife, get an excuse to use it. And we will peel this back, get on in there. So now, once again, the color difference, if you want to kind of compare between the two sauces, the Mad Cow is much more of a bright red, dark brown, hue to it. The Disclaimer is much more of a light brown, not really much of a red hue. I guess a little bit, but not super noticeable. You're really picking up more of the brown going on in this sauce. So the Disclaimer from Fxcking Hot Sauces. Let's get into it. Now, with the way that this bottle is designed, having the glass opening be very restrictive compared to, say, a traditional woozy bottle, this will also help with the flow rate. As you can tell here, this sauce is a little bit more on the thin side, so it will have more flow. So this sauce bottle ends up working beautifully for that. Just kind of give it a few shakes and it starts to get going. So let me get that one out here. Nice specks of overall seasoning going on that I can see. And there we go. Got a nice tablespoon. Let's get a good aroma of this. Oh, wow. Completely different as far as the aroma here. You're picking up really more of the pepper notes, a little bit of a savory note, maybe a little bit of a sweet note as well. It's hard to tell with that last little bit of aroma that I'm picking up, but cheers. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Let's talk about it. The Disclaimer here, absolutely phenomenal. That sauce is hands down pops in my head immediately. This is going to be a go-to sauce for anything as far as like pizza, Mexican food, using this in soups, using this on sandwiches. You're really going to be able to bring alive what you have going on. Started to notice that it is much more pepper forward and bright in this nature. So the initial heat, I would say, is actually much higher than the Mad Cow, and you're getting more of that pepper note and that pepper body. So if you're looking for a more pepper forward sauce, this is definitely going to be there for you. Now, as far as the overall flavor profile, it's not to say that you're losing anything. So you're still gaining a nice savory depth to it. You're getting a little bit more on the the vinegar taste, a little bit more on the pepper taste, a touch of the seasonings that are coming through, really allowing this thing to sing forward. Super excited to kind of take a look at the ingredients in this one. But if you're just starting out, this one's going to be, possibly one that's going to be a little bit more challenging for you to just jump into, say, than the Mad Cow. But the great thing with that is you're able to work it into other condiments. You're able to work it in with food, and all these things will help kind of reduce the overall impact of that initial heat. So using it in moderation, I definitely see that you could potentially still do this one and find out where you're comfortable. Now, if you're working on your own personal best, this is going to be a nice medium sauce for you. Some might call it a high heat sauce. It really depends where your tolerance is at. For me personally, I see it as a nice medium, very well-rounded, easy to pair with anything, and not really having any kind of limitations or issues. The only thing I wouldn't use it on is going to be, any kind of desserts. Not really geared towards, say, even ice cream in that manner, but absolutely phenomenal. One that you can easily pair with quite a few things. Now, the burn on this one, hitting the back of the throat, hitting the mid part of the mouth and the back of the mouth, it is definitely a stinging burn as well. Going to go ahead out there and say this is going to be another habanero heat source as far as what's going on. Really flog in the back of the throat and the back of the mouth, nice and good. Top of the mouth, bottom of the mouth, and just really incorporating it. I'm salivating like crazy. Both of these are very delicious sauces. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and read off some scores. But let's do this. Let's read off some ingredients here. So the disclaimer has smoked habanero peppers, garlic, orange juice, interesting, lime juice, water, vinegar, salt, pepper, and spices. The orange juice is very shocking to me because normally orange juice is one of those ingredients that just pops out. It's a very noticeable, typically for me, to find in a sauce, in a product like that, because it's one of those ingredients that if you use it incorrectly, it can be very orange flavor, overpowering, intensive, and kind of just mute out everything else. In this one, really, those smoked habanero peppers and that garlic and vinegar are just absolutely singing through on this sauce. That orange juice and that lime juice are creating that acidic break, almost like a palate cleanse that you need to really have all these things work beautifully together. And even though it just says spices, those spices are nicely singing through here as well. So kudos there from Fxcking Hot Sauces, or Fxcking Hot Sauces. We have the disclaimer. Let's go ahead and read off some scores here for that one. All right, here we go. We have the disclaimer coming in with a heat of 3.65, aroma of 3.5, a flavor of 3.56, a versatility of a 4, a burn of 3.87 for a total swear word rating of 3.72. There we go. An amazing sauce. This is the disclaimer by Fxcking Hot Sauces. And definitely an enjoyable duo here. Both the Mad Cow, both the disclaimer have a great, unique approach, both utilizing smoked habanero peppers and really letting those be the star of the show. If you're looking for something that is, a little bit more on the barbecue friendly, nice, deep, smoky taste, the Mad Cow is highly the one for you. If you're looking for a nice, universal, smoky habanero hot sauce with great heat, definitely check out the disclaimer. Either way, they're both amazing. I will have the direct links for each of these down below. as well as a link to the main site so you can check out the full lineup of amazing hot sauces from Fxcking Hot Sauces. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the interview. Hey, David, how's it going?
Good, Brandon. How you doing?
Man, I am doing good. Glad to have you here. Been seeing all the great things that you've been able to, be a part in and really have a major impact kind of facilitating or being involved with across social media. And of course, obviously watching you continue to grow across social media as well. So excited to learn about Beans Hot Sauce, how it got started and all the fun things in between, but glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me, man. It's really exciting. Enjoy watching your videos out there, your podcast, and it was an honor for you to reach out to me and ask me to be a guest. As you mentioned, we're growing pretty quickly, kind of the new kid on the block, so to speak. So, anytime I can be a part of something like this is great for us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, one thing I always like to lead off with, it's the only thing I ever, have set to ask for the first time meeting someone, which is what got you into the world of hot? And then what was that moment that you were like, hey, I'm going to go start making my own spicy products?
So, as far as the spice, how did I get into the spice and everything? So, I mean, that goes back to when I was a kid. I've always had a high tolerance, which is kind of unusual for a child, I guess. But I have two aunts that are pretty close to me in age, so I was the little brother, so to speak, and they like to pick on me sometimes. So they picked some jalapenos out of my papa's garden and said, "Hey, if you eat this, we'll give you a bicycle." Well, I'm 5 years old. I'm like, "Okay, I didn't know they couldn't give me a bicycle at 5, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in for that bicycle." So chomped down on that jalapeno, and they were waiting for me to start crying or whatever, and I'm just looking at them like, "Where's my bicycle?" And that's when I found out I didn't get a bicycle. And of course, I started crying then, but I kept eating the pepper. Um, my Mimo actually walked in the room about that time and found out what was going on. And of course, they got in trouble, but she's like, "Why are you eating that? That's hot." No, it tastes good. And so that kind of started it. And I found out that I don't like bland food. I have to have it spicy and, seasoned and what have you. Um, what's interesting is really up until a few years ago, I didn't have a green thumb. I could kill fake plants, right? So, but I love buying peppers and spice blends and just putting that on everything. Um, but really, I think the turning point for me, as far as the spicy thing goes, is Man versus Food came out, and I was like, man, I can do that. So me and a buddy started going around doing a YouTube thing where we would do that similar style, and we would take on different challenges and things. So you know, it was just kind of in my blood, I guess. And then the hot sauce game itself, I've always been a good cook. I love cooking and, really gravitated towards, again, spicy things. Um, so, I've been making hot sauce for probably several years. I mean, close to a decade, I guess. And, just friends and family, like here, have a batch or whatever. Never really thought about getting in the business and just making it public. Actually, in the show Superhot came out last year, and I watched that and really kind of watched like, man, there's these kind of people out there like me. Like I'm not the only weird one out here. There's a ton of weird people out here that love the spicy stuff. And, over the past really 8 to 10 months, I've really gotten to know a lot of the people that were on the show and become friends with them. And, it just kind of motivated me to start the company. And I don't know, it just seemed the right time and we did it and it really started taking off on us.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to hear. And, to see, and obviously, let's touch on the first, obviously not getting the bike, shame on them for doing that. That's one that easily could be held over their heads for quite some time, I'm sure, and missed opportunity
yep.
if not. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's always fun, to hear and to see, and I've experienced this as well with my own daughters. Trying them finding that curiosity of wanting to dabble in peppers because they'll either see me eating something and then they won't want to try it, and I think it's one of those things that if you have that early on experience with spicy food, from just the people I've talked to and the others that I have encountered, They all seem to have the same thing. Whether they tried it at an early age and liked it or not, they all tend to end up loving it later in life. And it's a great thing to kind of incorporate and let your kids kind of, just if they're curious, let them try it out and get introduced to, because it continues to help grow the community for sure. But then, once again, the pivotal moment of things like Superhot really adding to the awareness to the overall community, the great things that are out
Hmm.
there, and inciting others to want to get involved and share their love, their passion, their craft. It's huge, hugely impactful, and great to see. Now, as you were getting involved with creating your own hot sauces in your own company, did you, like, at what point were you kind of at that teetering, I guess, heat wise? Where were you kind of comfortable around versus where you're like, I know most people end up seeing it as, well, I started to do this because I couldn't find anything hot enough, or et cetera. Was that kind of where you fell on that side of things, or how did that shake out?
So I think for me, and I'm a hot sauce addict. I'm not going to lie. I've got a not quite to the, if you know Vic Klinko, not quite to his level with that museum he has, but I've got a hot sauce wall, and I'm continuing to add to it. You know, I always like to just explore and see what's out there. But for me, and one of the motivators on the formulas that I create was, I don't like a hot sauce. Like, I gravitate to the really hot sauces. That's where my palate is. My wife's more on the end of black pepper, kind of that level. So our household's kind of split there. But um, you know, the bad thing about a lot of sauces out there on that upper super hot level that I like is, when you try it, you get the immediate heat and you taste the heat. And I don't want to taste the heat. I don't want that smack you in the face heat. I want to taste it first. I want a really good flavor. Let that heat build up. Let me cry after I enjoy the sauce, right? And that really was my big motivator on a lot of my formulas. And that's, I did a show this past weekend in Boston, and, a lot of the people that came up and tried my sauces, they were like, "Ooh, I'm going to try your hottest one." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "Don't expect it to hit you in the face right away." And so they try it, and they're like, "It's not that hot." I'm like, "Just give it a minute. Just enjoy the flavor." And you can see it. They start seeing that redness coming to their face, the sweat starting to come out, and they're like, "Oh, there it is." So, but yeah, that's kind of what pushed me as far as the way I approach my products.
Okay. Now, as far as your own daily personal consumption, is there a threshold that you really like to bounce around, or is there obviously, this is probably going to be a sauce that you end up creating as well, but is there a sauce or a product that you find yourself really gravitating towards on a daily use?
So it really depends, Brandon, on what we're having for dinner that day, right? You know, my wife, if we're having salads, for instance, I'll gravitate to one of my like mid range, because the sauces I have in that line, they pair well with salad. Like last night, we had pizza, and so I dumped on my Fury sauce, which is one of my super hot sauces. Um, as far as my go to, what typically tends to end up on the menu somewhere each day, that's probably going to be my base flavor called Savor the Flavor, which is around a medium type level. Um, Really good kind of taco sauce, but it pairs well with everything. But if I'm being honest too, it's not always just my products. Michael Corvais, who you actually had on pretty recently in Purple Tongue, and my friend Brandon Wright, Chico Blanco sauce. Um, one, there's one of their sauces that I keep in my fridge at all times, and I put that on my things a lot as well.
Oh yeah, both are very great companies as well to get some quality products from. But I can definitely see where that would fall into the lineup as far as a go to grab for the rotation. And from the original sauce that you started out with, is it so you mentioned it's a nice medium heat, but tends to pair really well with, like, say, tacos, etc. Was that kind of the initial inspiration behind that, or where did that kind of thought process come into play for that first sauce?
I think really. I just wanted to find a really good universal sauce that anyone could enjoy, as far as heat level, but as also a flavor. I wanted something that paired well with just pretty much anything. And when I thought through who I wanted to be as a company, as far as, when people think about our products, like what comes to mind? And I wanted it to be savory. Like I want you to savor our flavors, right? And that's where
Mhm.
that name came from, savor the flavor. And then from there, we kind of branched off. And that base recipe is actually a portion of a lot of the recipes that we have.
Okay. That's very cool to see and to experience along the way because it almost starts to become a thumbprint, a brand identity throughout your products in that manner when utilizing it that way, which is a very cool thing to see and to be able to pinpoint and it should be easily more identifiable to pull out of a lineup, if you will, from a blind taste testing, having that kind of base note in each
Right.
product. So very cool there. Now, how many sauces are you up to right now, or products in general? Anything in the works right now, or what's your current offering as well?
So right now we have 9 sauces. Like I said, they range from mild to super hot. I do have one that League of Fire asked me to create exclusively for them for their hot sauce rounds and the events that they do. And that one's called Drunken Dragon. And that one is not available to the public yet. It will be released in October at Blaze for the Brave. And then from there, it will be going on the website live. But that one is a bourbon based sauce with the Dragon's Breath heat behind it. That one is kind of the exception of my rule. That one does hit you in the face right away, but it tastes good at the same time. Because they did ask me to make something that challenges those contestants. Um, I'm also working on a couple of dessert sauces, and I'm not going to talk too much about those just yet. But there'll be more media to come on that. But I'm trying my hand. I did a blueberry one, and I kind of tested it out. Got really good feedback on it, and that's not hasn't really been my wheelhouse, is those sweet and fruity kind of things. But because it did test so well, I'm like that kind of motivated me to kind of keep making some things in that line as well. Pepper season just started, and I'm growing uh, probably about 500 or 600 plants this season. So I do plan to do some pepper blends as the peppers start coming in as well.
Nice. The something there's a few things there that I want to touch on, but first and foremost, let's work backwards on that. So the involvement with League of Fire recently, I made a quick nod to that at the open of this. Obviously, that's got to be super cool to be involved in. I know that you're able to hand out the belt as well and help really bring the winner forward and help honor them in that way. How did the overall so I guess for the League of Fire, the contestants that were there on the stage, they got to try it that were, still in the round at that point. Now, for those that were just, spectators or so on, did you do samples during that time frame? If so, what was, I guess, between both of them, what was the overall resounding message like from that?
The spectators did not get to sample Drunken Dragon. Again, that one's staying very exclusive right now. They did get to sample some of my other sauces and pretty good feedback there. Um, and you touched on me getting to present the belt. I want to talk about that if I could.
Yeah.
You know, being asked to do that by the UK Chili Queen, first of all, just even meeting her was pretty amazing. But when she asked me to get up on the stage and present that belt, that was kind of surreal for me. Just being there in general, just being able to set up at that event and being the match sponsor for this event, it was just all really surreal for me. And considering again we haven't been open now that long, and going from setting up in my house to moving to a commercial kitchen to just going through that whole process of getting out there in the market, and then being involved with the League of Fire, and then being up on that stage in a very short amount of time. Again, just very surreal and just like wow. So when Tom Cornwell won that belt, and he ate that last pepper, and it's funny because his competitor did bow out, and when I say bow out, I mean with the bucket.
Yep.
Tom kept eating. I mean, he's a trooper, and he just said, "I'm going to finish my peppers." And UK Chili Queen was like, "You're good. You won. You don't need to keep eating." He said, "No, I'm going to keep eating. I'm driving this one home." So I'm kind of standing on stage awkwardly, like, "Okay, okay, what do I do? What do I do?" But he wrapped up and he stood up, and I'm friends with Tom, so it was a double honor for me just to be up there, but also to present it to my friend, and just the look on his face when I handed it to him and him holding it up, it was just like I was so proud for him. And it was great to share that out afterward, just to give him the props, and now he gets to move on to the next level and compete there too. And I will be involved with that one as well.
Nice. Now, is this the one that you had just done in Boston? Is that your first League of Fire event? I know you had, one more, or is it two more that are coming up?
Yeah, so that's the first one that I've actually been able to attend. I've actually been match sponsor for a few events so far, but this was my first one I could attend. And it just kind of worked out. I mean, it was in Boston. That's a 24-hour car ride. So I decided to fly. And I tell you what, Brandon, I've never been more stressed out in my life. I could take two suitcases and I could take up to 70 pounds in each one. And I
Mm-hmm.
think one of them was like 69.4 pounds. The other one was like 68 point something. And I packed them in there as good as I could, as much padding as I could. And, my thought was, okay, is it going to be overweight when I get to the airport, which that was fine. Is it going to be safe when the baggage handlers start throwing them around and stuff? What happens when TSA scans these bags? Are they going to be like, no? I'm actually on the plane and I'm looking out, watching the baggage handlers load up the suitcases. And my two were at the top of a stack in the cart, and they pulled a suitcase in the stack next to it, and the whole stack falls over. And my heart just jumped out of my chest. I'm like, oh my gosh, there goes everything, right? But everything made it. Everything was intact. Nothing was broken. Like I was like I expected at least one or two bottles to be broken at very minimum, but it was fine. But it was stressful, man. But no, it was fun to go and a great experience. I actually had one of my suitcases get lost on the way back, which I'm
Oh,
glad it
wow.
happened on the way back and not on the way
Yeah.
there. Um, but that being said, I sold out almost everything I brought with me, and it was just a really great time. But yes, I do have a few more coming up on the books right now, outside of the League of Fire, as well as some League of Fire events coming up.
Nice. Shout out to the airline for getting that done right and done for you. Yeah, that moment of watching your bag fall, that had to be just the your heart sinking down into your stomach at that moment. But at least they didn't have Jackie Chan or someone in there just yeah, roundhouse Chuck Norris roundhouse kicking your
Right.
bag onto the airplane. So good job there on the airline. But absolutely, I can only imagine the car drive would not have been an enjoyable one, but you definitely ensure more control over the outcome of
Right.
things. But ultimately, yeah, it definitely makes more sense to fly in that nature. And at the same time, you run, I almost feel like more of a risk by mailing something like that than you would just to be
Yeah.
loading it in your suitcases with you, because things could get held up, it could be longer, it could get broken just as easy. It's a whole nother mess.
Well, and it would have been cost prohibitive to actually ship it, and where do you ship it to, and all that. But some of my recent orders that I've actually shipped out, we actually had one that the customer sent us a picture of it. I don't know if you've seen Ace Ventura when he's bouncing that package around and kicking
Yep.
it and all that. That's what it looked like had happened. The carrier knew they broke it. It was leaking, so they actually took the time to wrap it in a clear plastic bag and still delivered it to this lady's porch. And I'm like, no. So shipping it was not even a thought really for this event. The 24-hour car ride, retrospect, that probably would have been the least stressful overall. In fact, when we head to Gettysburg for Blaze for the Brave, we are definitely driving. It's about a 16-hour drive, so we'll break it up in 2 days. But I just can't stress out with the airplane again like that. That was just too much.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Whenever it's different when you're. I guess it still kind of holds weight, but it's a different kind of weight. When you're just a vendor there at an event versus someone that is counted on for the pepper competition to test these individuals that are up there on stage. It still matters both ways, but one is not quite as easy to just quickly substitute out, if you will. So
Right.
yeah, that's pretty wild. As you were saying, being able to be plugged into these different events and groups that you have going on. Is there? You mentioned there's some other non-League of Fire things going on. What has been your experience currently as far as like getting out to different markets? Are you getting plugged in that route? How are you currently going about educating the overall consumer base about Beans hot sauce and really, continuing to spread out the heat?
Sure. So, the non-league events that I'm going to, it's really just been kind of word of mouth. People are hearing about us and, inviting us out. I've got one coming up in Aurora, Illinois, the 17th, and it's a taco festival. But they thought, hey, what goes good with tacos is hot sauce. So they invited me out there to vend, and I look forward to it. Um, but, and something that, I haven't talked to you about yet, but our mission statement is blessing others through spice. That's kind of what we live by. This is not my full time job yet, maybe someday, but so we were blessed to have this company. So therefore, we like to bless others where we can. And that's kind of what led to the match sponsorships and everything with League of Fire. But we also each month we kind of take a look at kind of what's out there as far as charities and things, and how can we give back. So for April and May, we're connected with the Leukemia Texas organization, which close to home for you as well.
Yep.
They're based not far from where you live, actually. But my mother and father-in-law actually founded this charity organization, and what they do is they serve all ages, really, of cancer patients, and but a lot of focus on the kiddos, of course, too. And it hits home for me. My wife is actually a cancer survivor. My father-in-law is a retired oncologist, but he pediatric oncologist, but also a 5-time cancer survivor himself. And
Wow.
so that one is really near and dear to us. So what we're doing right now is for every bottle we sell for April and May, we're giving $2 back per bottle to the organization. We're looking at doing some things with like the SPCA because obviously Mr. Bean back here, rescue cats are near and dear to us as well. Uh, so, each month we're going to be looking at things like that and how we can kind of plug in and give back to the community, so to speak. And, I really enjoy touching on your other part of your question when I'm at these events. It's not for me just about selling hot sauce and making money. That's a great part of it, obviously, part of what I do it. But to your point, I like to educate people on, the science behind the sauce because there is a science to it. It's not just gooping stuff together. And I've tasted those kind of sauces and I don't like those. There is a science to it, like what pairs well with each other. How do I offset that super hot pepper flavor that is not always so pleasant to where it is pleasant to try? And, you know, on top of that, just the science behind capsaicin and what it does to you. And it's not going to burn a hole in your mouth, I promise, uh, and just introducing people to that community. And, when I come across, actually, I did this weekend in Boston, I came across some folks that are some newbie chili heads and looking to plug in. And I'm like, hey, there's more of us out there. And let me introduce you to League of Fire and, Capsaicin Crew and a couple other people out there that you can really connect with and have some fun. So really enjoy that part of it, man. That's why I do it.
Yeah, the overall being able to share in that moment, watch as the excitement, the passion, the heat kicks in, all the things, right, that are just told through that face-to-face interaction is definitely one of the best parts about being out at events and engaging with others is really, being able to share that even a brief moment, but share that moment with others as they continue their own walk in their own journey into the world of capsaicin. And yeah, there's tons of great groups out there. And to touch on the charity aspect, I think that is absolutely amazing. And I just like I don't even know I don't even know the right words to say for that, because obviously, cancer is definitely one of those that nobody likes hearing, right? And to be able to help be a part and support some organization that really is out there helping make an impact in other people's lives is extremely crucial. And kudos on you for getting plugged in and making that commitment for these 2 months. So yeah, I just completely blown away by that. So the talking through your overall, I guess, hold on, let me take another step back. Something else you mentioned was, and something that I was going to bring up as well, how did the name Beans Hot Sauce get selected? And obviously you have a cat on a pepper. Walk us through that.
So, we wanted to come up with something different, right? Because the market's flooded with hot sauce companies, and Michael from Purple Tongue touched on it too. During COVID, everybody started a hot sauce company, right? That was the thing to do. And so I'm like, how do we stand out? Like, it's got to be the name, it's got to be the logo, it's got to be the labels, and it's got to be the flavor, obviously. But so we were kind of sitting there and like, what do we name this? Like, we got to make it great. So we have 5 rescue cats here at home. Obviously, soft spot for cats. Bean is our youngest. He is a black Maine Coon. He is a goofball. He lives up to his name, Bean. He is just, yeah, he's crazy. So, he comes sliding in and just being goofy, and it's just like immediately like, he's the mascot. He's Bean, and so that's where Beans came from, and it just kind of fit. So my original logo was just like an angry red pepper, and so I always in my media had the angry red pepper, but then I also had this crazy picture of Bean where he was looking up with just these crazy wild eyes. And, you know, my stepdaughter Megan, she was like, we should merge the two somehow, make it one, and he should be a pepper. And she's an artist. So I said, hey, draft something up. Let's take a look at it. And so what you see behind me is what she created, and it really stuck, man. And one of my friends on Cap Crew actually looked at it one day and said, why don't you call it Jalabino? And so it kind of stuck. So our logo is Jalabino. Um, and yeah, that's where that came from, man.
Very nice. I love the story behind it. I love the involvement of everyone along the way, and very well done on the merging of the two. It tells the story exactly. It paints the picture and gives you a good idea of what's going on, and it's also as getting to know all these different sauce makers, product makers in general, the ones that have the ties to a very close bond to their pets, regardless of whether cats, dogs, etc. It's always fun to see how they are worked in, because like 90% of the time their pets are worked in some form or fashion. And it's almost as if, and Vic, if you're listening, it almost seems to be one that you would want to have a designated section of, like, pet involved, products, because it almost at this point is starting to stand out as a subcategory within the category, to be able to hone in more and phone in on the exact niche, if you will.
Yeah, Vic, listen to that, man.
There we go. There we go. I like it. Okay, well,
Yeah,
you.
and
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, so obviously I can't take Bean with me to events. It probably wouldn't go very well. So I actually had a tabletop cardboard cutout made of him, and got him a little name tag that says, "Hi, my name is Bean," and I took him with me to Boston and had him set up on the table. And it was hilarious how many people came up just to look at the cat. Like, why is the cat here? And that was a great conversation starter. A lot of people coming up taking selfies with the banner as well as the tabletop. So it was really funny. So yeah, it definitely stands out.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say. Once you mentioned the cutout cardboard of Bean, it was almost as if mentally in my head I could just picture people wanting to take photos with Bean, and then it almost being just a natural, organic way for not only exposure for Bean, but also for Bean's hot sauce, and
Right.
really just kind of continuing to see your brand ripple out into other people's social medias in that manner. That would be pretty fun, thing to do for like a either a giveaway, a raffle, whatever of that sorts. That would be a pretty fun thing to kind of drive the love forward.
Right.
But hey, something else that stood out as well, it was really kind of reflecting on, and we kind of touched on this, but thinking back to throughout your journey, whether that be before finding out about Superhot and really kind of getting deeper into the more online side of the pepper community as a whole. Were you really dabbling in quite a few craft sauces at that point before that, or was that more after the fact that you started to get more into, say, some craft sauce?
I think before it was more just me saying, we're going to have tacos tonight. I'm going to throw something together for that. Just again, just kind of as things came up, I'd throw something together. And, even though they're small batch, I tend to make a lot. So then it would go out to other family, friends, whatever. And, that's how it kind of started getting out there. But yeah, really, it was when Super Hot came out and I saw that it just kind of motivated a little bit more to really hone in on different recipes and actually establish some set recipes like that.
Nice. The You mentioned earlier you're growing, and at one point, not really that being a successful nature for you. But is that now what you do for your own sauces, or are you sourcing your peppers locally? How do you go about getting the product needed for your own products?
Yeah, so right now I am sourcing locally. I try to, we actually here in Glenview, in the Chicagoland area now. I told you that last night. Moved away from Texas and Great White North here, but there's a lot of farms up here, a lot of mom and pop kind of growers and things like that. So I try to source as much as I can from small business. What I can't, obviously, I have to go big box. But I did mention that I'm growing this year, and my intention is to ultimately, as much as I can organically in house, bring in my own stuff that way. That's the ultimate goal. Um, just so I can control the flow, I can control what I'm using 100%. I don't have to worry about what was used in growing this or what was used in pesticides and what have you. Just so I know 100% it's all organic.
Yep. No, that makes perfect sense. Something that you had mentioned, obviously, we had touched on last night as well, which was that trip from moving from Texas up north. I guess what first of all started that idea, and then how has that transition been for you? Do you find yourself fitting in from just living there, or is there some things that you're just like, all right, we're just looking at this thing and you're seeing one color and I'm seeing another?
So actually, I lived up here about 15 years ago for a few years. I came up for a job and got to experience the winters up here, and I was like, don't know if this is for me at that time. So I ended up moving back to Texas, and really, the summers, as you have experienced, you live there. It seemed like the last several years, the summers are just getting unbearable, and to the point that the house that we were living in there in Fort Worth, I had a beautiful backyard set up. We had a pool, we had a sand beach. I built a tiki bar. I mean, it was a great setup, and we got to enjoy it all of 2 weeks in the summertime before it was just unbearable, right?
Yep.
So, fall of 2023, there was actually it's called LeakyCon. There was like a sci-fi wizard convention in Chicago, and so I brought the girls up here, and because they're big Harry Potter fans, so we came up just to check that out. and the weather was so nice, and it's like, wow, you can actually walk around and enjoy yourself in the fall here. Um, so my wife wasn't able to join. So when went back, she's like, I want to go too. So we actually made another trip up later in the year and got to enjoy a nice week up here. And we get back home and we're both like, wow, we kind of see ourselves living up there. It's four seasons and there's so many things to do here. So I just kind of put myself out there job wise to some recruiters. And I don't think it was even a full day had passed. And a recruiter reached out and said, I've got this great opportunity. And I'm like, great. So I flew in for an interview and it just was happening very fast. And by the end of December of 2023, it's like, hey, we want to offer you the job. So, like, I guess we're doing this. So I actually came up in January to start the job and I moved into an apartment and then moved the family up in June once we got the house sold. So, as far as adjustment goes, again, having dealt with those summers and as just I'm getting older, the heat's not for me anymore. Just not, you know, dealing with it as good as I used to. The cold doesn't bother me as much, and you know, my wife and I are both hot natured people, so that kind of worked out with the cold up here. And I don't know, just coming up and just the culture's so different up here. So just getting to know people here. Like I said, the amount of things that you can do here, and it just was kind of a whole new chapter for us and a whole new page that we can just start fresh. And it's been a great experience. And I don't know that I would have ever thought to grow peppers and do all this when I was down in Texas. And again, because I mentioned I had a brown thumb previously, I suddenly have changed that. I think it's the climate because I kept killing things down there, like my palm trees and stuff. So it may be the climate up here, maybe that's what's different. But I don't know. It's been great, man.
Nice. Okay. Well, it's always something that's not necessarily the easiest thing for folks to do, but glad that everything worked out nice and smooth. It sounded like it was a little bit faster than you initially intended. But everything working out the way it did sounds like it worked out beautifully for y'all. And yes, Texas is definitely one that it is, most people experience at most, 4 seasons. Texas has something similar to, we'll call it like 6 or 8, because you got false summer, you got actual summer, then you have this great growing time, and then all of a sudden it goes back to second summer. Same thing kind of with fall. You'll have like a false fall and then the real fall, and then it'll just drastically change again. So for all of those that are watching and listening, you're like, what's going on? Texas is like the mood swing state of the weather. So you never know what you're going to get, and you might experience 3 different seasons in one day span. So it's
for sure.
it's a wild journey
days
out
going
here.
to school, and yeah, right. I remember days going to school, like went to school in shorts and flip flops. Well, not flip flops, but you get the idea. Dressed down because it was hot in the morning, and by the time you're going to the school bus, it's snowing outside. I've actually had a day like I recall that happened. So yeah, definitely crazy weather. And there's a little bit of swings up here, but nothing close to what's like down there.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a good training ground to get prepared for living anywhere else in the world. Just being able to survive in Texas for even a year. So, yeah, no, a lot of fun there. Okay, well, now you had mentioned I know you said you didn't want to talk about it much, and I definitely respect that, but I definitely want to touch on the fact that I do believe that like the dessert hot sauce or dessert sauce side of the world, while it has been explored by a few, and there's some that are out there that are doing it way better than others, it is still a widely, in my opinion, widely untapped market that is definitely due for some new life being pumped into it. Because, I mean, sure, every other kind of hot sauce product, you can argue, can hit that 80-90% span of your overall meal experience for the day, but having that extra little step is going to be one that will make it fun and make it more enjoyable for people to have that product on hand and with them. So to be able to kind of dabble in that should be definitely an exciting one. Now, without really diving too much into it, are you looking at something that's much more on the sweet side for the desserts, or are you looking still to kind of keep that savory balance to it?
Definitely on the sweeter side, again, because I want to make something that's true dessert style sauces. You know, why should your heat only be for dinner, right? Why can't it be for your dessert, for your pancakes, for your ice cream? Um, you know, when my Azul de Fuego, which is my blueberry sauce, was released, that was tested with like a vanilla ice cream over the top of that and some chocolate syrup, and it pairs so well together, and it just brings a whole new element to vanilla ice cream, right? And that's what kind of motivated it. I'm like, there's so many other different things out there we can do on the dessert side that a chili head can say, "Ooh, I can amp up this dessert," because you're not going to throw pepper flakes down on your chocolate chip cookies, right? It's just not going to work. So,
Yeah.
you know, just something that a chili head can take or even a non-chili head can take and put on their dessert and enjoy that little bit of cake or a lot of cake, whatever their preference may be. So, how I approach really any recipe is, just think of an idea like what makes me happy. And for instance, I'll kind of allude to one of them. I think my favorite holiday is Christmas. And when I think of Christmas, I think of like apple cinnamon, right? Like that kind of realm, and just that makes my heart happy kind of thing. So, when I make the sauce and when people try it on something, I want to elicit that feeling. Like you're not just enjoying this great flavor. I want to, and like I'm eating Christmas right now and I'm experiencing Christmas. And that's how I approach all the flavors. So, as I'm creating these dessert sauces, that's again the same lens I'm looking through and how I'm approaching that.
Okay, I like it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And as more rolls out, I will continue to share that out with the rest of Swear Nation. Um, but let's do this. I want to make sure we're cognizant of fitting the game in. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the
Sure.
game.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, here we go. We have a very fun game. This is a dual round game. So this is called the five. Up on the left-hand side of the screen, you will see 1 through 5. This is your ranking order. 1 could be the best, 5 could be the best. How you rank them, where you rank them, that is totally up to you. I'm going to show you 5 different images, one at a time. Each one has to be placed before the next one is revealed. Afterwards, we will talk about if you would have moved anything, but we cannot move anything once it is set. So, here
All
we go.
right.
Up first, we have Texas.
Oh, killing me, man. Uh, would have put that at a number one when I lived there, but I got to be fair in my current state, and I know you're going to sneak some things in on me here, so I'll put that at a 3.
All right. Very well played. Liking it. All right. Up next, we have Cats.
Oh, number one, man.
There we go. I thought about being pretty sneaky with this one and having that be the final one. But all right, so here we go. Up next, we have boom. This is just a good example of fall. So, however you would view fall.
Let's put that at a 4.
All right. Simple enough. 4 it is. Up next, we have summer.
Number 5.
Number 5. What is the average like high heat in Chicago during summer?
The normal average is like lower to mid 80s.
Oh,
In fact, when we moved up here, when I moved the family up in June of last year, it was 98 that day, which was like a record day, and it was really humid, and everybody was dying, and we're just like, "Are you kidding? This is like fall,
yep, yep,
So no,
absolutely.
it's great, man.
Well, number 2, regardless of how everything shook out, is jalapeno. So
Okay.
now that you have seen everything and now that we've gone through it, are there any of these here that you would have moved?
Actually, no. Cats are number one. Again, motivation behind the business. We love our rescues. Jalapenos, that's where I started my pepper journey, as we talked about earlier. You know, the state of Texas politics I could care less about, but, I still have a lot of family there and just, all my childhood memories. Fall, definitely a great season. Love it. And like I said, summer is definitely moving down the list for me. So I'm happy with this order.
All right. Well, there we go. Let's jump into the second round of the 5. So, same game, different stack of images. Let's jump on in. All right. Well, we have Chicago. Here's the bean.
All right. So to save any sneaky that you might have going on, let's put that at number 2.
All right. There we go. And up next, we have Fort Worth, Texas.
Let's go number 4.
All right. And let's get that. There we go. Up next, we have barbecue.
Number 1, man.
Number 1. I like it. Solid choice. Well, we have the next one here is going to be Whataburger. So where would you like this one to go?
Okay, I'm going to precursor where I'm about to put this with the statement and why I'm putting it there. I'm mad because they're based out of Chicago now, and there's not one to be found up here anywhere.
I
So
was
because
just
of that,
about
they're
to
going
say
to number
that.
5.
Yep. I was just about to say, with them being
Yeah, I'm
owned now in Chicago, I
mad at
would
them,
have
man.
thought that would have happened. But, well, number 3 is football. So,
I'm good with that. Yep.
kind of snuck in one that
Always a Cowboy fan, but I'm kind of mad at them too. So that they deserve to be at 3 right now.
fair enough. Well, any of those that you would have flip-flopped around or done anything with?
No, I'm good with that, and I love the fact that you picked a picture of the bean with the Chicago image. To kind of tie in with beans. I like it.
Yep. I had to have a fun little play on that one, and I thought, well,
Love it.
there's a lot of people that don't even know that the bean exists in Chicago, let alone would know what that was if they don't know what that is. So it's a fun little nod for all those that are, familiar with the bean.
So crazy enough, as much time as I've lived here, and the time I was here before, we actually saw the bean for the first time about a month ago. We went to a show downtown, and just the route that we took to get to our parking spot, we pulled right up to where we can see it. That was actually our first time to see it,
Nice.
and it's
Okay.
as cool as it looks, man. It's really cool looking.
I can only imagine. Well, I guess my first and initial thought every time I've seen a picture of it, I'm like, first of all, how does it stay shiny? Do they send someone out there daily to like clean it and buff it and all the
Yes,
things? Okay.
yes,
That has to be a very tedious task, and to be the person that's out there buffing and cleaning and shining and all the things only to watch, 10 seconds after you're done with one location, someone over to go over there and try to touch it.
exactly.
Man, that would drive me bonkers. I could never do that job just for that reason. So,
Right.
okay. Well, here's your chance for a nugget of knowledge. This would go out to those individuals that are, wanting to get into the world of creating their own spicy products. It doesn't have to necessarily be a hot sauce in general, but they've been curious about the world of hot. They've got into it on their own personal journey, but now they're wanting to take that next step. What would you give them as a nugget of knowledge?
I think that, 2 things. One being on the business side, just really research your business plan and make sure that you have a really good solid plan in place before you launch, just to keep you from stumbling and failing. I see so many businesses failing because they don't do that. The other piece being just be passionate about what you do. Find something that, for me, it's the sauce, and that's the science behind the sauce, but find something that gives you a lot of happiness and passion, and chase it, and just chase it with everything you have and put everything you have into it. And that's where you're going to succeed.
Very well said. Well, here's your chance to put someone on the hot seat. This is someone that you think would make a great guest for the show.
I don't know if you've already had him on, so if you have, I apologize. I just didn't see it. But Brandon Wright, Chico Blanco, I think would be a great guest for you. I want to see Brandon out here. Brandon actually, and I didn't get to touch on it, but Brandon and Michael both have been really instrumental in just helping me grow my business and being a resource for me. So definitely love to give them that plug too.
All right. I appreciate that nomination, and I will have Brandon Wright back on the show here and have a great time talking to him about some amazing stuff that he's doing with his great taco lineup of amazingness right now. So now, as far as any kind of updates or anything you want to let others know that are watching, listening, or how can they keep up with you, this is a great chance to let everyone know that.
Sure. So again, follow me on social media. Facebook and Instagram are probably the biggest ones. Keep checking the website. I do a lot of updates there as well. Just a reminder that through the end of May, we are giving $2 per bottle sold back to Leukemia Texas. And just also another reminder too, every one of our products can be custom made. The way that we do produce them. When you place your order, specify if you want it mild to super hot, and we will make it happen. So if you want to savor the flavor that's a super hot level, we'll make that happen for you. The only thing we can't do, because we're not magicians, is we can't roll back our super hot sauces back to mild. But we can definitely customize that as you order.
All right. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on here. It was great to be able to get to know you, understand Beans Hot Sauce, and look forward to having you back on and diving a bit deeper.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it very much, man.
David, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast here tonight, learning about Beans Hot Sauce. If you want to keep up with Beans Hot Sauce, I will have the direct links down below for all the socials, as well as the main link to the website, so you can check out the full lineup of products. If you enjoyed the featured products here on Hot or Not tonight from Fxcking Hot Sauces, I will have the direct links for those down below, as well as a link to the main site, so you can check out the full lineup of amazing hot sauces, powders, dry rubs, everything in between. And hey, want to give a quick shout out to all of y'all. Thank you so much for helping make this channel what it is. Now over 100 episodes strong. Continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads or those individuals that are curious about the world of hot, because this is where you can find everything to do with the world of hot. Don't forget, new episodes drop every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. And want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you've hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all of those needs, as well as another sponsor that we have, webdx.one. If you have an online site, maybe it's not a great representation of you and your business. Maybe you had somebody, but then you've now lost contact with them. And, you really just want to be able to show how amazing you are in your work online, in your online presence. Highly recommend checking out webdx.one for all of those needs. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.